and it will cover just few areas so that we understand the path of building strong rural economic opportunities in Africa using tourism as one of the critical sectors. More lessons will be taken from the South African context. I'll be looking at the status of the rural economy in Africa, but clearly more checking whether this can be a viable development strategy for Africa. Is it working? And the current impact of the international tourism structure on the African continent, and how best can we explore an alternative development modes to advance this economic sector. I'm mainly exploring on the side of the political economy of tourism, okay? And how it may impact to the rural opportunities, particularly with a focus to check its impact to stimulate the rural communities using its economic segments. I'm not suggesting that it could be a panacea to economic challenges facing the continent. That's a disclaimer so that you don't ask me more questions. The key important concepts for this conversation are critical so that they lay a clear foundation to those who are involved doing business in Africa on tourism, and those who claim to be think tankers, as well possible, a measure of end product to tour operators there, is the concept of poor tourism. Because if you talk about rural communities, always are behind in terms of the standards in developing countries. So the strategy cannot be the same with mass tourism centers in big cities. The concept of responsible tourism is key because you are tampering with the vision of natural resources in those areas. The last aspect, of course, is the opportunity to explore on the nature-based economy of tourism in these areas. Before I go to the deeper aspects of this talk, you must have this picture in terms of the tourism and the Africa as well. We have managed to clock at least $1 billion on the African continent, which itself is an economic opportunity if one is to invest in Africa. We have those users of the internet that you see, much more as well on Facebook, which means the connectivity on the African continent is at a promising pace for investment opportunities. That is for your information. Top 10 countries making use of the internet users. I was shocked to see South Africa is number 6. I don't know what happened. Nigeria number 1, maybe by virtue of their size and population. I'm not sure. But that's a top 10 list of countries on the African continent currently are highly involved in exploring through internet. Let's assess as well these facts that are basic if you are to tackle tourism. The international tourist arrivals. You can check the fair share of the African continent, which is 5%, which is lowest as per the continental shape of the world. Perhaps that 5% presents itself as an opportunity to explore and develop more on the African continent. And if you check the numbers, we have 49 million visitors, okay, from across the globe. At least it's an indicator that all sensitive aspects of tourism are secured if you have 49 million visitors, at least by 2010. Let's check the African continent, how it performs. Egypt, despite of the outcry yesterday, sits there at 11.9 million. Bible, 5 minutes. Maybe my watch is wrong. Unless I still use the African time. Huh? Let me leave it there. But that's a picture of the tourism arrivals. But what I'm interested at here is the aspect of the income generated. If you check there, I only listed those who managed to generate at a billion level. We are fairly performing at least well when it comes to the income benefits of the tourism earnings. If you check the South African picture out of this, what is interesting to me is to find that we have 73% of the tourists that we receive from the African continent. The remaining is coming outside the African continent. And this market is making at least over 50 billion rands in terms of the national avenues. Let's look at the features of the rural tourism in Africa. Okay, start through South African situation. This is what you will see. But fundamentally, are the heritage sites that in many rural areas there are a true picture of the African tourism product. Because I don't have time, let me leave everything. What next for rural tourism sector in Africa? To me, my interest is to see the business of strengthening the education to those that host this business activity. The second aspect is to be about addressing the microfinances access requirements, which are more or less a challenge. The third aspect is to make sure at least communities benefit, not through what was said yesterday, the CRS, but through community business initiatives. Because CRS there are just philanthropic than being really in terms of empowering the communities there. The last aspect is to make sure those that are developed, they create strong partnership. This is what I present as a key strategy that may improve the situation. The community-based model of business ventures, the strengthening of the institutional sector, and capacity to deliver upon the expectations. The importance of having a responsive human capital to improve on the sector. The last aspect is the implementation and rules compliance, of which we are fairly performing well there. I'm explaining this aspect simply because if we talk about community-based business model, it's what in many continents is not yet encouraged. It's encouraged partly in a soft word, not in real terms. To us, it is so meaningful because it's beyond individualistic driven business ventures. The challenges that we face on the African continent, we are facing them as communities than individual, and that is challenging. And it requires a community strategy to settle those economic challenges because they must respond to education and they must respond to infrastructural issues. We drive those processes, not individuals drive those processes. Key risk areas that needs to be addressed, the security matters, reputational risks, policies that are meant to respond to the sector, and try to eliminate this jet kind of economy. Tourism is what I call a jet kind of an economic sector. It's here, right. On the African continent, it has little benefits down to those who host it. So far, it is still a sky pie opportunity, and hence the concept of community-based business models to turn around the situation. That is key. In terms of the conference theme, I think with that kind of a business venture, youth opportunities will be in abundance. And I have no doubt that the intercultural relations will be the gem, because that is the power of the African people, to interact and give back the humanity. And sometimes other people explore and beyond and abuse. The last part is about branding. Of course, it's key. We'll tackle it. Thank you.